There is a secret event happening today, and we found hidden achievements in the files that tells us what the next expansion is going to be. But for now, servers are down. My name is Swag, and this is the Vault Day update. Break the Meta is back, and players are competing to win tons of different prizes. The easiest to receive is an in-game item called the Smoldering Banner of Aspect. You get this simply by timing 2 plus 15 dungeons as part of the event. However, what makes BTM so special and unique is, well, it's breaking the meta. There's a specific list of specs that qualify for competition, so not every spec can play. Generally, the specs that are either most played or competing at the highest level are disqualified. Which is fun until I look at the list as a Death Knight main and I realize every single Death Knight spec qualifies for BTM, and I stop and go, maybe they're not as good as I thought they were. But jokes aside, BTM is a great event to challenge yourself and maybe change up how you and your friends play in the teams that you build. Hunters have received a new raid buff, which actually, weirdly enough, has been causing a lot of controversy within the player base. Currently, the ability causes an enemy to receive 5% extra damage from all players while it's above 80% health. The controversy is that people are questioning if that above 80% health is actually a spot where we need a buff, and is that actually comparable to, let's say, the monk buff, which gives overall 2% increased damage throughout the whole fight, where the hunter buff across the spectrum just gives 1% extra damage across the fight. However, there are a few things that people are missing out on. Not every buff has to be identical. If every class is getting a 2% damage buff, well, then every class is going to be the same, and what's the point of having different specs? What's the point of having different play styles and uniqueness? So you lose that. But more importantly, in a lot of raids, there are bosses whose phase 1 you do want to burn quickly, and if you can burn it quickly, you can even skip some future stuff or work on progressing through it faster. Razageth is a great example of that, in my opinion, as phase 1 was kind of brutal and getting to phase 2 and 3 was difficult at times. But I think what's most important for us to think about as we look at the controversy around this is it's not saying, hey, Hunter should be on par with the monk buff simply for the sake of being on par, but instead the question is, if the group already had a monk and they're looking at taking a second monk or a hunter, well, they're not going to get the buff from the second monk. And generally, a hunter doesn't have a buff at all. So maybe that second monk would be worthwhile in case the first monk dies or something. Now, all of a sudden, you have a backup buff. Let's go. Seems kind of backwards. It doesn't make sense to leave out a whole entire spec because they don't offer anything except the occasional cheese on the mechanic. I think a 1% overall damage buff to the group that actually specializes in phase 1 is kind of unique and kind of fun and has a lot of versatility that players maybe just haven't quite realized yet. Okay, this one's gonna sound crazy. This is probably the wildest thing I have ever talked about on this channel before. Even crazier than the time I was convinced that Denathrius is gonna lead the Burning Legion, and I think I'm still convinced of that. But hear me out. The next expansion, oh gosh. Okay, the next expansion is gonna be a Dwarven Old God expansion. Maybe. We'll see. That's at least what the leaks are kind of oddly enough lending themselves to be. So traditionally in World of Warcraft expansions, when you buy the Heroic Edition or the nice bundle, you're going to get a mount with that bundle, and that mount comes with an achievement to show that you bought the more expensive, because there's nothing better than having achievements showing you know how to spend money. And for dragonflight, it came with a dragon mount, and not just a normal dragon mount, but one that hints at an upcoming Emerald Dream patch within the expansion that we're about to get in a few weeks, November 14th. So when data miners found the next achievement in the files for another mount that we're getting with an expansion bundle, it definitely caught everybody's attention. The mount is called the Algarian stormrider, and there's not a whole lot of detail there on the surface. It seems kind of complicated, but there are a few hints that we've already received in the game that should tell us what's about to happen. During this expansion, we have found hints of a race of dwarves that were once earthen and had gone off to a distant land to investigate some issues, old god related, and find out what was going on. And while they were investigating, they were affected by the curse of flesh, and they were turned, well, fleshly. The curse of flesh is the result of old gods tampering with the Titanforge creations, who were generally made of stone and metal, and it would turn them into flesh beings. When these earthen turned into dwarves, they renamed the land that they were in Algar, similar to, Khazad-dûm and many of the other naming schemes of the dwarves. We've also gotten a lot of hints that there is a fifth old god hiding away somewhere that we have not yet discovered. Is it possible that we are about to enter into an old god Dwarven expansion coming up soon? I think those themes are definitely going to be present. We have the dwarves. It's very clear that this is a dwarven mount of some kind. Probably not a dwarf itself, though, I would hope. And I would not be surprised to find out that this is where the fifth old god is, as they were affected by the curse of flesh in a distant land that the old gods were aware of currently have not affected. I don't know about you, but that seems a little suspicious. Just a reminder, Brewfest ends on Friday. So if there's anything you want to get still, like that sweet Brewfest dragon riding saddle, make sure you farm those coins and do so quickly. Speaking of events, there is an event happening today, I think. I don't know. I can't really tell you because it's a secret, but it's today. So hopefully we'll find out as soon as the servers are back up. Or maybe this is just promotion for an upcoming event. Whatever it is, we will find out. This week's affixes are fortified, entangling, and bolstering. Entangling is going to put roots around your feet. All you have to do is quickly move out of the circle and those roots will break. Bolstering, on the other hand, is a little tougher to deal with, but not too crazy. Every time you kill a non-boss enemy, it will bolster the other enemies around it, increasing their damage by 20%. This ability does stack, so make sure your tank is watching their pool sizes. The Turbulent Timeways event continues today with Warlords of Draenor. Actually, I'm editing right now, and I got that wrong. It's not Warlords of Draenor, it's Burning Crusade, which makes even less sense because I accidentally skipped Mop in my head when I went from Kata to Wad. But it's going back to BC, and I think I saw next week is Legion, and then to Mists of Pandaria. It doesn't make sense, but anyways, it's Burning Crusade this week. You can pick up the weekly quest in order to do 5 time-walking dungeons and receive a heroic piece of loot, or use them for quicker leveling. And lastly, it's the Battleground bonus event. Pick up extra rewards when you compete in random battlegrounds. And that's everything happening this week in the World of Warcraft. Hopefully servers are back up, and I will see you soon.